Captain Jack Murphy stood tall at the viewing port of the Earth Defense Fleet's flagship, Intrepid. The massive space station Concordia floated before him, its ring-shaped structure glowing with blue and green lights against the black of space. His heart beat faster as he adjusted his uniform. This meeting with the Galactic Council was supposed to bring peace and new friendships. "Captain, we're cleared to dock," said Officer Kelly Wright, her voice steady despite the tension on the bridge. Murphy nodded. "Tell the diplomatic team to prepare. This is the moment humanity has waited for." The Galactic Council had watched humans for decades. Only when Earth built its first faster-than-light ships did they decide to make contact. 12 alien races, all more advanced than humans, had invited Earth to join their galactic family. At least, that's what they said. Dr. Laura Hayes checked her tablet one last time. As the team's expert on alien biology, she had studied every bit of information on the Council races. Beside her, Commander Peter Simmons stood rigid in his dress uniform, his military training evident in his posture. "I don't like this," Simmons whispered. "Something feels off." The human team walked through the gleaming halls of Concordia. Aliens of different shapes and sizes moved around them. Some had too many eyes. Others had skin that changed colors. Murphy tried not to stare. 2 tall guards with blue scales led them to the council chamber. 12 seats rose in a half circle, each filled with a different alien. The leader, High Chancellor Genti of the Xelarians, had skin like polished silver and 4 arms folded across his chest. "Welcome, humans," Genti said, his voice oddly musical. "We are pleased you could join us." The meeting started well enough. The humans presented gifts. The aliens shared information about their cultures. But when Murphy mentioned setting up trade routes with other worlds, the mood in the room changed. "That will not be possible," said a squat, purple alien with 3 eyes. "For safety reasons, Earth must remain isolated for now." Dr. Hayes frowned. She noticed how the council members exchanged glances. While pretending to check her tablet, she accessed the station's public records. What she found made her blood run cold. "Captain," she whispered, showing Murphy her screen. "They've labeled Earth as a quarantined world. They've been blocking our signals to other species for years." Murphy's face darkened. This explained why Earth had never received responses from the signals that they sent to other star systems. He stood up suddenly. "You've been lying to us," he said, his voice filling the chamber. "You've kept us isolated on purpose." The chamber grew quiet. Then Murphy played a recording they had found in a damaged alien ship near one of Earth's colonies. The video showed council ships attacking human settlements while disguised as pirates. Chaos erupted. Genti's silver skin turned dark gray with anger. "Arrest them," he shouted. "They know too much." Guards rushed in from all sides. Simmons fought back, giving Hayes and Murphy a chance to run. In the hallway, they split up. Hayes was caught, but Murphy managed to reach an emergency shuttle. Alarms blared as he piloted the small craft away from Concordia, dodging shots from defense turrets. His hand shook as he set course for the Intrepid. In his pocket was the data chip with all the evidence of the Council's lies. The truth would change everything. Earth would never trust the Council again. And as the stars streaked by, Captain Murphy knew that humanity's first step into the galactic community had become something else entirely, the beginning of a war. 3 days later, Captain Murphy's shuttle landed at the United Earth Government headquarters in Geneva. His face was pale, and his uniform wrinkled from the journey. Security teams rushed him inside the massive glass and steel building where Earth's leaders waited. In the main chamber, representatives from all Earth nations and colonies sat in worried silence. Large screens lined the walls. Fleet Admiral Susan Clark, a stern woman with short gray hair, stood at the center podium. "Captain Murphy has returned from his mission to the Galactic Council," she announced. "What he discovered changes everything." Murphy stepped forward. His hand shook slightly as he inserted the data chip into the main computer. "The Council has been lying to us from the start," he said, his voice rough from exhaustion. They never wanted peace. The screens flickered to life. The recording showed council members in a private meeting, speaking freely about Earth. "These humans are advancing too quickly," said High Chancellor Agenti in the recording. "If we wait another century, they may become too powerful to control." Another alien, with features like a praying mantis, clicked its mandibles. "The containment strategy is working for now, but eventually we must neutralize them completely." Gasps filled the chamber. The recording continued, showing plans for attacks on human colonies disguised as pirate raids and strategies to prevent Earth from finding allies. When the video ended, the room was completely silent. Then a low murmur grew into shouts of anger and fear. President Alan Garcia raised his hands. The room quieted. Garcia was not a tall man, but his presence commanded respect. His dark eyes scanned the faces of Earth's representatives. "Where are Dr. Hayes and Commander Simmons?" he asked. Murphy looked down. "Captured, sir, along with the rest of my team." President Garcia nodded gravely. He took a deep breath and walked to the center of the chamber. "For 2 years, we believed we had found friends among the stars," he said. "We shared our knowledge, our culture, our hope. In return, the Galactic Council planned our destruction." The chamber was silent now. Every eye was on the president. "They attack our colonies and blame others. They isolate us from potential friends. They hold our people prisoner." His voice grew stronger with each sentence. "They see us not as equals, but as a threat to be eliminated when convenient." Garcia looked at the faces of humans from every continent, every colony. Some showed fear, others anger. "I did not want this," he continued. "None of us did. But today we must make a choice for our survival." He straightened his shoulders. "Today we declare war against the Galactic Council, not for conquest, not for revenge, but because we have the right to exist without fear." Admiral Clark stepped forward. "Our fleets are ready, Mr. President. We've been preparing defenses since the first suspicious attacks." Garcia nodded. "Send the declaration on all frequencies, in every language we know. Let the galaxy hear the truth." Throughout the room, people stood. What began as scattered applause grew into a unified sound of determination. On ships and stations across human space, crews watched the broadcast. In distant parts of the galaxy, other species intercepted the message. Some feared what would come. Others, long oppressed by the Council, felt a spark of something long forgotten. Hope. Carol Winters cursed as the warning lights flashed red across her ship's control panel. The Lucky Star, her small trading vessel, drifted powerless in the empty space of the Epsilon sector. "Come on, not now," she muttered, trying to restart the engine. Nothing happened. The drive was completely dead, and her emergency beacon might not reach any human ships for days. Carol ran her hand through her short blonde hair. She was too far from regular trade routes. After Earth's declaration of war 2 weeks ago, human ships avoided Council space. But here she was, stuck right on the edge of it. A sudden ping from her sensors made her freeze. A ship was approaching. No, 3 ships. Large ones. And they weren't human. The ships were unlike any she had seen before. Their hulls looked like the shells of giant insects, with strange patterns that glowed green against the black of space. "Human vessel," came a voice over her comm system. The words were clear, but had an odd clicking quality. "Your ship is disabled. We offer assistance." Carol hesitated. These could be Council allies. But she had no choice. "This is Captain Carol Winters of the trading ship Lucky Star. I accept your help." Hours later, Carol stood in a vast chamber aboard the largest alien ship. The walls curved like the inside of a beetle's shell. Around her moved the Razak, tall, insect-like beings with 4 arms and compound eyes that shimmered with colors. A larger Razak approached, its shell decorated with intricate patterns. 2 smaller ones followed it. "I am Klikta, Queen of the Razak Hive," it said. "You are safe here, human." Carol bowed slightly. "Thank you for saving me. but unconfused. I thought all non-human species were allied with the Council. Clicked. I made a sound like soft laughter. The Council spreads many lies. Many species suffer under their rule. We Warzw declared our neutrality centuries ago, but others have not been so fortunate. The Queen led Carol to a large room where screens showed news from across the galaxy. Earth's declaration of war played on one screen. Your people's courage has sparked something, Clicked said. Look. Other screens showed protests on different worlds. On one, crystal-like beings held signs with human words. On another, creatures that seemed made of pure energy gathered around council buildings. The Lithosi, the Luminals, the Voth, the Myrians, all have suffered under council control, explained Clicked. For years, we've built a secret network, waiting for the right moment. Carol stared in amazement. You want to ally with humans. We want freedom, Clicked replied. Your war could give us that chance. Meanwhile, on the far side of council space, Lieutenant Ben Foster led his team through the dark corridors of a space station orbiting Proxima Thui. Their black stealth suits blended with the shadows. Security system bypassed, whispered Specialist Amy Grant, her fingers moving quickly over her portable computer. We have 15 minutes before the next guard patrol. Foster nodded. Move fast. Our people are in detention block C. The team had been sent to rescue the captured diplomatic team, including Dr. Hayes and Commander Simmons. But as they snuck deeper into the station, Foster saw something unexpected. Cells filled with aliens of different species. These aren't just our people, he said quietly. This is a political prison. In one cell, Dr. Hayes sat with a small alien who had feathers instead of hair. They were drawing diagrams together on the floor. Lieutenant, Hayes gasped when Foster appeared at her cell door. You need to help everyone, not just us. These are all political prisoners who oppose council policies. Foster looked at the hundreds of cells, then at his small team, and made a decision that would change the course of the war. We're getting everyone out, he said, and we're going to need their help to do it. Admiral Susan Clark stood on the bridge of her flagship, defiant. Around her, crew members worked at their stations, faces tense but determined. The massive view screen showed hundreds of human ships gathered together, forming the largest battle fleet Earth had ever assembled. All ships report ready, Admiral, said Commander Frank Wilson, her second in command. Clark nodded. And our new allies. The Warzw ships are in position. The Luminals have infiltrated the Council's communication networks. The others are standing by. Good, Clark said. Begin Operation Thunderbolt. Across 3 sectors of space, the human-led alliance launched simultaneous attacks against Council military bases. The Council had always believed their defensive systems were unbeatable. They were wrong. The human ships used a new stealth technology created by Dr. Nicole Jordan. The ships could appear seemingly out of nowhere, strike hard, and vanish before the Council's reinforcements arrived. On the Xilarian defense station, alarms blared as human ships appeared just 1,000 miles away, much too close for comfort. Impossible, shouted the station commander. How did they get past our sensors? Before he could get an answer, the first missiles hit. The station shook violently. Meanwhile, the Defiant led the main attack against the Council's largest military shipyard. Clark watched as her ships moved exactly as planned, like dancers in a deadly ballet. Council ships approaching from Sector 7, reported a young officer. Right on time, Clark said with a small smile. Tell the Warzw to spring their trap. The pursuing Council ships suddenly found themselves caught between 2 forces. The insect-like Warzw vessels emerged from hiding places in an asteroid field, their green energy weapons cutting through Council shields. In just 6 hours, the Alliance forces destroyed 3 major military installations, disabled 2 defense stations, and captured 17 Council ships. It was a devastating blow. On the Council homeworld of Silara, the Archon Supreme Valtor slammed his fist on the table. His silver skin had turned almost black with rage. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Humans are supposed to be primitive. How are they defeating our best forces?" General Kravzik, the Council's military commander, looked down at his reports. "They're not fighting according to any tactics we studied. They strike fast, cause maximum damage, and retreat before we can respond. And they're not alone," added another council member. "Reports confirm they've allied with the Razak and several other species." Valter's eyes narrowed. "The Luminals assured us they would keep watch on those sectors. Where are their reports?" The chamber lights flickered suddenly. The main communication screen activated on its own. A face appeared, a human female. "This is Dr. Nicole Jordan of Earth," she said. "Your luminal allies have reconsidered their position. They remember how your council experimented on their young to study their energy patterns." The council members looked at each other in shock. "The luminals have been helping us access your networks for weeks," Dr. Jordan continued. "We know your defense protocols. We know your ship movements. We know everything." The screen went dark. Moments later, reports flooded in. Council communication systems were failing across 3 sectors. Defensive shields were dropping at random. Navigation systems were sending ships in wrong directions. Valter stood in the suddenly darkened chamber, his silver face reflecting the emergency lights. "How," he whispered, "could we have underestimated them so badly?" Across the galaxy, news of the Alliance victories spread quickly. Species that had feared the Council for centuries began to hope. Perhaps the unthinkable was possible. Perhaps the Council could be defeated after all. A month into the war, the Grand Council chamber on Xilura was no longer peaceful. The 12 representatives shouted over each other, their unified front crumbling under the pressure of repeated defeats. "We must negotiate with the humans," insisted Ambassador Lorville of the Dravik, his blue tentacles waving with agitation. The Dravik were one of the oldest council species, known for their wisdom. "This war is destroying our trade routes and military strength. Negotiate with primitives." General Mokhtar of the Corvin faction slammed his armored fist on the table. The warrior race had 3 eyes and tough gray skin covered in battle scars. "We should use the Void Cascade weapons, destroy their homeworld, and end this rebellion." The chamber erupted into more arguing. The once mighty council, which had ruled the galaxy for 2,000 years, was now divided between those who wanted peace and those who demanded total war. Archon's Supreme Valtor raised his hands for silence. "The Void Cascade is forbidden by our own laws," he said, his silver face reflecting the chamber's lights. "Using such weapons would turn even more species against us." "Laws," mocked a new voice. All heads turned to see Ambassador Kelena of the Aquatic Myrians. Her skin shimmered with blue and green scales. "You speak of laws while breaking them in secret for centuries." She activated a holoscreen in the center of the chamber. It showed council ships attacking human colonies and taking resources. It showed prison camps filled with beings from dozens of species. It showed records of illegal weapons research. "These are from your own secret archives," Kelna said. "The humans and their allies have shared this evidence across the galaxy. My people have suffered similar exploitation. The Myrians formally withdraw from the Council and join the Human Alliance." With dignity, she removed her council insignia and placed it on the table. The chamber was silent as she walked out. On Earth, President Garcia met with his war council in the underground command center beneath Geneva. Admiral Murphy, now recovered from his escape, studied the latest intelligence reports. "The Dravik have sent a peace proposal," said Emma Kelly, Earth's chief diplomat. Tall and composed, she had worked for years to establish relations with alien species. "They're one of the founding council races. This could be significant. Or it could be a trap," Murphy warned. "The council has never been honest with us." President Garcia rubbed his tired eyes. "What do our new allies think?" "The Razak believe the council is truly fracturing," Admiral Clark said. Queen clicked to reports that at least 4 council species are considering breaking away. But the hardliners, especially the Corvin, are pushing for more extreme measures, added General Joe Brown, his weathered face grim. Our intelligence suggests they want to use banned weapons against Earth. Garcia looked at the holographic map showing the position of fleets across the galaxy. Human and Allied forces had won several battles, but they were still outnumbered. A long war would cost millions of lives. We'll respond to the Dravik, he decided, but cautiously. We'll meet their representatives on neutral ground with heavy security. As the meeting ended, Admiral Murphy approached the president privately. Sir, there's something else. The lithosi crystals we rescued from that prison facility. They've been analyzing council communications. They think some council members knew about Earth for centuries and have been raiding our solar system even before we developed space travel. Garcia's expression hardened. Find proof, he said quietly. If some council members have been exploiting us all along, the whole galaxy needs to know. Peace talks were scheduled to begin in 3 days. On both sides, ships prepared to travel to neutral territory, where humans would meet with Dravik representatives. Hope, fragile but real, spread through the Alliance forces. That hope shattered in an instant. On the human colony of New Eden, 6 million people went about their daily lives. Farmers tended crops under biodomes. Children attended schools. Researchers studied the planet's unique plant life. Governor Sam Miller was reviewing construction plans for a new hospital when the alarm sounded. Unknown ships approaching, announced the colony's eye. Council signatures detected. Miller rushed to the command center. On the main screen, 5 black ships with red markings moved toward the planet. Get me Earth Command, he ordered. Before anyone could act, a blinding light filled the sky. The security officer shouted something about energy readings, but his words were lost as reality itself seemed to bend and warp around them. And then, silence. Where New Eden had been, there was now only a swirling darkness in space, a wound in reality itself. 6 million lives, gone in seconds. In the emergency session of Earth's War Council, faces were grim. Admiral Clark's voice shook with barely controlled rage. The Corvin used the Void Cascade, a weapon that folds space-time, she explained. New Eden hasn't just been destroyed. It's been removed from our dimension. President Garcia stared at the images of the swirling black void where the colony had been. This changes everything, he said quietly. We should strike back with everything we have, urged General Brown. Show them the same mercy they showed New Eden. But Garcia shook his head. No, we will not become like them. We need a different approach. He turned to a young man sitting quietly in the corner. Ryan Cooper didn't look like a warrior. With his glasses and slim build, he seemed more like a college student. But his mind made him one of Earth's most valuable weapons. Cooper, you said your team found a way into their systems. Ryan nodded. Yes, sir. With help from the Luminals, we've mapped their entire network. We can access everything. Military commands, personal messages, classified files, everything. Do it, Garcia ordered. Show the galaxy who they're really dealing with. 48 hours later, across thousands of worlds, every communication screen flickered. Council propaganda disappeared, replaced by images of the Void Cascade destroying New Eden. Then came the classified files, records of experiments on lesser species, plans for genocide against potential rivals, evidence of council members stealing resources from undeveloped worlds. In the Corvin Command Center, General Drakmore stared in horror as his private orders, including the command to use the Void Cascade, played on every screen. His personal messages revealed his plan to overthrow the current council once the humans were defeated. Ryan Cooper's team didn't stop at releasing information. They disabled the remaining Void Cascade platforms, scrambled military communications, and exposed the location of every council secret base. On dozens of planets, populations who had lived under council rule for generations took to the streets. Council buildings burned. Security forces found themselves overwhelmed. On the Dravik homeworld, The ruling council voted unanimously to withdraw from the Galactic Council. 3 other species followed within hours. On Earth, President Garcia addressed his people. The council wanted war, he said, his face solemn but determined. Now they face not just humanity, but the judgment of an entire galaxy. 3 months after the destruction of New Eden, the war reached its final phase. The once mighty Galactic Council controlled only a fraction of its former territory. 7 species had broken away completely. Others were in open rebellion. Admiral Murphy led the final assault on Xilara, the Council homeworld. His fleet, now a mix of human ships and vessels from a dozen allied species, moved through space with confidence. The Intrepid had been rebuilt and upgraded, now serving as the flagship of the Alliance. Council defense platforms ahead, reported Officer Kelly Wright. Her calm voice belied the tension of the moment. Murphy nodded. All ships, prepare for battle. But as they approached, something unexpected happened. The defense platforms powered down. Communication channels opened from the planet's surface. "This is Archean Supreme Valtor," came the familiar voice. "We surrender Xilara to Alliance forces. Our remaining ships have been ordered to stand down." Murphy exchanged surprised glances with Dr. Laura Hayes, who had been rescued in the prison breakout months earlier. After all the fighting, it seemed almost too easy. "It could be a trap," Hayes warned. "Only one way to find out," Murphy replied. Hours later, Murphy stood in the Grand Council chamber where his journey had begun. Now, instead of 12 alien representatives looking down at him, he faced only Archean Valtor and 2 remaining council members. President Garcia and representatives from the allied species stood with Murphy. Valtor's silver skin had lost its shine. He looked broken. "We expected you to destroy us," he said quietly. "It would be a fitting revenge." President Garcia stepped forward. "If we did that, we would be no better than you. We did not fight this war to replace one tyranny with another. We fought for the right of all sentient beings to live free from fear and oppression." Valtor seemed surprised by these words. "What happens now?" "The Galactic Council, as it was, is finished," Garcia said. "In its place, we propose the Galactic Concordat, a new governing body where all species have equal representation and equal rights." Murphy watched as Garcia outlined the new system. Former council worlds would be given choices: join the Concordat, remain independent, or form their own alliances. No species would rule over others. Trade would be open to all. Knowledge would be shared freely. Valtor and the remaining council members were not arrested, but instead offered positions as advisors to help with the transition. Justice would come through truth and reconciliation, not revenge. 2 weeks later, Murphy and Hayes stood before a memorial on what remained of New Eden. The swirling void had stabilized, becoming a strange, beautiful phenomenon in space. Scientists believed that the colony might still exist in another dimension, and research had begun on ways to retrieve the lost people. Around them, humans worked alongside Razak, Lithosi, Mirians, and other former enemies, building research stations and memorial gardens. "Do you think we'll ever get them back?" Hayes asked, looking at the void. "I don't know," Murphy admitted, "but we'll never stop trying." As they walked back to their ship, Murphy paused to look at the stars. When he'd first gone to the council chamber, humanity had been alone and naive. Now they were part of something greater, a community of worlds working together. "We never wanted war," he said quietly, "but through it, we found our place in the galaxy." Hayes smiled, "and brought freedom to countless beings who had never known it before." 5 years after the formation of the Galactic Concordat, life had changed across the galaxy. Trade routes flourished between worlds that had once been enemies. Knowledge and technology were shared freely. Species that had been oppressed for centuries now had voices in galactic affairs. On a research station orbiting the New Eden anomaly, Dr. Olivia West stared at her data screens in disbelief. The young physicist had dedicated her career to studying the void cascade effects, But what she was seeing now seemed impossible. "Paul, get in here," she called to her colleague. Dr. Paul Davis rushed into the lab, a sandwich still in his hand. "What is it?" "I'm picking up signals from inside the void," she said, pointing to the screen. "Not random noise. Actual signals, radio transmissions, data packets. They're coming from New Eden." Paul dropped his sandwich. "That's not possible. The colony was phase-shifted out of our dimension." "Look at the pattern analysis," Olivia insisted. "This is definitely human communication technology. And it's recent, not echoes from before the attack." News of the discovery spread quickly through the Concordat. A joint research team of humans and Lithosi quantum physicists began working around the clock. The crystalline Lithosi had unique abilities to perceive multiple dimensions, making them ideal partners for the complex work. Within months, they established their theory. New Eden hadn't been destroyed, merely shifted into a parallel dimension. The colony still existed, and its people were still alive, trying to communicate back to their home dimension. The first rescue mission was planned carefully. A special ship, built with Razak and luminal technology, would attempt to enter the void and return. The risk was enormous, but volunteers lined up to join the crew. President Garcia, now serving his final year in office, met with the mission commander, Captain Amy Grant, once a Special Forces operative who had helped free prisoners from council facilities. She now led the most important rescue mission in human history. "Bring them home if you can," Garcia told her. "But don't take unnecessary risks. We've lost enough people already." As preparations for the New Eden rescue mission continued, a different kind of news arrived from deep space monitoring stations. Strange energy signatures had been detected at the edge of the galaxy, patterns unlike anything seen before. The Dravik, with their long historical records, recognized the signatures immediately. In the Council archives, they had found references to a mysterious species from beyond the galactic rim. Beings the Council had encountered briefly 2 millennia ago and feared enough to avoid contact ever since. Admiral Murphy, now commander of the Concordat Defense Fleet, reviewed the data with representatives from 20 different species. "If these readings mean what the Dravik think they do," he said, "we may be facing a threat greater than the Council ever was." Queen Klikta of the Razak clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "Then we will face it together," she said, "not as separate species, but as one unified galaxy." Murphy looked around the room at beings who had once been enemies, now allies and friends. Together they had overthrown tyrants and built something new, a true community of worlds. Whatever came from beyond the rim, they would be ready. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as partners in a grand alliance. It wasn't the future anyone had predicted when the war began, but as Murphy often said, it was a future worth fighting for.